It's a new article claiming NASA says that there's UFOs that have existed since ancient times. NASA has confirmed that UFOs have existed throughout mankind's history. And this is, of course, a bombshell document published on their very own website. Sean Adeltabatabai of your Newswire reports. Well, we know that from archaeology, Egyptology, this Abydos, Egypt Temple of Seti stele depicting ancient helicopters, flying saucers, airplanes, various types of flying craft. This was before the time of the exodus of Moses from the land of Egypt. And one of the pharaohs, one of the latest pharaohs of the line of the last pharaohs of Egypt, the great-grandfather of Nectanebo, who is supposedly the biological father of Alexander the Great with his mother Olympias. Well, Nectanebo's ancestors destroyed all the temples of Egypt except for this one, because he claimed that this is where mankind's creators came from, with these types of craft. And this was left in throughout history for us, and we still have it today in Abydos, Egypt, in the Temple of Seti. Besides that, we have the Tulli papers, the Tulli Papyrus, which is hieroglyphs showing that ancient Egyptian pharaohs had witnessed landing of spacecraft. And it's written, an account of this is written in the Tulli Papyrus. I've made a video on that, and I will leave a link below for you for that. That's quite detailed. It's the account of the pharaoh himself as to what he saw, and it was frightening, of course. I'll leave a link to that video in the description box. It's very interesting. Now, concerning what the NASA declaration says, according to the author of the report entitled Unidentified Flying Objects in Classical Antiquity, ancient UFO observers describe mysterious objects flying in the sky that cannot be attributed to natural phenomena. It's not only in antiquity, it was also in medieval Europe in the 16th century. That's very interesting because the people of Europe, I think it was Germany or Belgium or something, Brussels, in the city of Brussels, they were able to see spacecraft firing at each other. It was like an alien advanced technology space war above their heads. And they even had crashed UFOs just outside of the city. I mean, what was that? We're talking about at a time when nobody was flying around in anything, not even hot air balloons. Very strange things. But now, a small number of the aerial objects that were described by ancient observers would be their interpretation of natural phenomena like solar and lunar eclipses, comets, optical phenomena, and new stars. But, as the author of the report clearly states, some ancient reports were describing unidentified flying objects that were similar to today's modern UFO sightings. Quote, my working hypothesis will be that most such reports can be explained by conventional scientific ideas, and that among all the other reports, only those that defy reasonable interpretation after full analysis can be said to resemble the most puzzling reports made today. End quote. The ancient UFO witnesses often described these crafts using known military terminology of their time. The military terminology reflects the most advanced technology known at their time, and a tendency found also in modern UFO reports, in which a witness gropes for familiar technical vocabulary and perhaps a rationalization to describe an unaccountable phenomenon, as many reports were made during wartime may partially explain the military terminology. The author then goes and lists a number of these ancient sightings that describe military objects that were seen in the skies. At Rome in the winter of 218 BC, quote, a spectacle of ships, navium they called them, gleamed in the sky, end quote. In 2017 BC, at RP round shields Parmas were seen in the sky. In 2012 BC, at Reate, a huge stone, Saxum, was seen flying about. In 173 BC, at Lanuvium, a spectacle of a great fleet was said to have been seen in the sky. In 154 BC, at Comsa, weapons arma appeared flying in the sky, obsequent 17. The term refers to defensive weapons, especially shields. In 104 BC, 104 years BC, the people of Ameria and Tudor observed weapons in the sky rushing together from east and west, those from the west being routed. At 100 BC, probably at Rome, quote, a round shield, Clepius, burning and emitting sparks, ran across the sky from west to east at sunset, end quote. 43 BC in Rome, a spectacle of defensive and offensive weapons, armorum telorumque species, was seen to rise from the earth to the sky with a clashing noise. Historically, the most famous sky army appeared in the spring of 65 AD over Judea of Israel. The historian Josephus reports, quote, on the 21st of the month Artemisium, there appeared a miraculous phenomenon passing belief. Indeed, what I am about to relate would, I imagine, have been deemed a fable were it not for the narratives of eyewitnesses at the subsequent calamities, which deserve to be so signalized. For before sunset, throughout all the parts of the country, chariots were seen in the air, and armed battalions hurling through the clouds and encompassing the cities, end quote. Now, I must also here point out that there is a section of the Old Testament of the Holy Bible. I'm sure it's in Maccabees, because I read Maccabees a lot. I love those saints. They were very bold. They were really outnumbered by the ancient Greeks, and in 3 years they brought back the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem back to Israel, and with the proper priests, line of priests. Now, in their account, they saw a battle above their heads going on. The archangel Gabriel was asking one of the Maccabees, what do you see? Look, man of God, what do you see? Look up and see. What do you see? He says, I see a battle going on in the heavens, in the clouds above him. And the archangel says, yes, you're right. And that is a battle between good and evil. Okay, so some of God's saints were able to see this. It was a gift that God gave them to see what the spiritual warfare that's going on around us. Now, this thing here in Judea, as we said, cluster of no, sorry, that was before the 21st of the month of Artemisium that the historian Josephus reports over Judea 65 AD. Okay, he says there were many eyewitnesses who saw these calamities which deserved to be so signalized. For before sunset, throughout all parts of the country, chariots were seen in the air, armed battalions hurling through the clouds and encompassing the cities, going around the cities. Now, of course, what could they call them? They call them chariots, because that's what they used to travel with, chariots. Many horse chariots. They didn't have anything faster than that at that time. Going on with the article, the first cluster of reports of fiery globes falling during the Second Punic War. Levy reports that in 217 BC at Capena, 2 moons rose in the daytime. And at Capua, a kind of moon fell during a rainstorm. What is that? In 168 BC, when L. Aemilius Paulus was waging war against King Perseus of Macedon, quote, a ball was the form of a fire that appeared as large as the moon, end quote. A more complicated object made its appearance somewhere between 151 and 146 BC. Quote, after the death of King Demetrius of Syria, a little before the Achaean War, a comet blazed out not inferior to the sun. At first it was a fiery red disk, 17 emitting a light so bright that it dissipated the night. Then little by little its size dwindled and its brightness faded. At last the light died completely, end quote. 2 parallel records of 91 BC, preserved by Livy's extractors Orosius and Obsequens, refer to central Italy. Over the city of Rome, quote, about sunrise, a ball of fire shone forth from the northern region with a loud noise in the sky, end quote. In 74 BC, when a Roman army leader, L. Licinius Lucullus, was about to engage the forces of King Mithridates VI of Pontus, that's just above the Black Sea, thousands saw a molten silver object falling from the sky. According to Plutarch, quote, but presently, with no apparent change of weather, but all on a sudden, the sky burst asunder, and a huge flame-like body was seen to fall between the 2 armies. In shape it was like a wine jar, bithi, and in color like molten silver. Both sides were astonishing at the sight and separated. This marvel, as they say, occurred in Phrygia at a place called Otrie. The presence of thousands of witnesses, including Lucullus and Mithridates, vouches for the incident's occurrence. End quote. The date was around 285 AD, in or near the Fayum of the Egyptian desert. You know, Fayum is where they had the portraits of Fayum, those paintings of what the people looked like that were placed on their embalming wraps on their faces. Fayum in the Egyptian desert, quote, Saint Anthony, the Saint Anthony we know, the great Saint Anthony, saw on the desert floor a large silver disc that suddenly vanished like smoke. Now, this is Saint Anthony, the man of God, the saint of God, the original Saint Anthony, the founder of the monastic orders. So he would not be lying about this. He saw on the desert floor a large silver disc that suddenly vanished like smoke. According to Livy, in 214 BC, quote, at Hadria, an altar was seen in the sky. An altar? An altar was seen in the sky. Around it were forms of men dressed in shining white, end quote. 150 AD, on a sunny day, a quote-unquote beast, like a piece of pottery, keramos, keramiko, keramos means ceramic in Greek, about 100 feet in size, multicolored on top and shooting out fiery rays, landed in a dust cloud accompanied by a maiden, clad in white. The author concludes that many ancient observers were describing a very advanced alien technology. Quote, embedded in the mass of relatively explicable ancient reports, however, is a small set of unexplained, or at least not wholly explained, reports from presumably credible witnesses. If these reports are examined statistically, essential features of what I will, for argument's sake, call the ancient UFO phenomena can be extracted. Shape, discoidal or spheroidal. Color, silvery, golden, or red. Texture, Metallic or occasionally glowing or cloudy. Size, 1 meter to well over 1 meter. Sound, usually none-reported. Type of motion, hovering, erratic, or smooth flight with a rapid disappearance. You can, there's a link here, you can read the NASA full report, Unidentified Flying Objects in Classical Antiquity. And it's 14 pages. If you click on it, 14 pages, dated 2007. And at the end of it, it has sources. Richard Sothers. It has quite a number of pages of sources. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just okay, UFOs in antiquity. He goes and lists the dates. There's a lot more than what we just read, of course. And at the end, there's a trireme at the bottom of that. So there is a link on the article that you can go to. I'll leave a link below for you as well. It's a PDF of 14 pages.